A good Erev Shabbos, Yitzi, all those gathered. A good Pesach Sheni. Today's Pesach Sheni. I want to first just say a few words to Yitzi. We're not the same age. I'm a little older. I think you're the same age as my brother. But I have been closely watching, what can I say? You know, you cry and you laugh at the same time for Hashem's mysterious ways of stripping you from so many of your keiches and potential. I've seen many of your videos dancing and your unique skills. But you also laugh because what you have demonstrated, which I'm sure you've heard many times, but I just want to say it from my own words, what a neshama is all about, what a human spirit is all about. You can't usually see the power of a neshama because it's usually trapped in the hell and the hester, as Chassidus says, of the body and of all the hakbolas and all the limitations of this world. But you have demonstrated and given so much keiches to so many people, including myself, of showing what a neshama really is like. Now, why the Eibishter should have to test and cause such type of aggravation, that we all know, as the Rebbe always says. Why, we don't know. I just saw a sikha from the Rebbe Rashab, from Frierdiker Rebbe, Achar Pesach Tov, and he says there that what the Rebbe Rashab once said, Hashgacha Pratis, we don't know why. We don't know farvos. We know tzalibvos. We don't ask why, we ask for what do we learn from it? What purpose? So I just want to say on a personal note, since Hashgacha Pratis, we're here together, that you have demonstrated, what can I say, the bli gvul keiches of a neshama's infinite powers, willpower, and the sheer determination that you want to shine and glow in ways that are unprecedented. So I just wanted to say that from my heart to your heart, to all those that are listening. Second thing, as you know, the whole world is now experiencing its own form of paralysis. When Elam Haza has suddenly come to a halt, this coronavirus, and everybody is looking also inwards into the neshama, because when you can't go to work, and and your summer plans, and restaurants, and clubs, and baseball season is gone, museums, all public areas. And lahavdil, in the Jewish world, shuls are closed, yeshivas are closed, schools are closed. So when all that, the outside world, what we call Elam Hazeh, is closed down, what are you left with? So those of us that are neshama dika people, we're left with the ikar of all ikrim, the neshama. The neshama never is impacted by external things. So I think your lesson, Yitzi, to all of us is now more important than ever. I already mentioned a few people this week. I said we're going to learn together. So I said, you want to know a neshama? You see a neshama when you see the chitzenius is in some way not able to function. That's when you see the power of a neshama. Again, we all pray to Hashem. You should have a complete miraculous. Is the month of Ani Hashem Nefecha. The Rebbe explains it's a refuah that is retroactive, that it completely can eliminate any issues. So it's just Hashgacha Pratis, we're talking in this type of time where there is the whole world is challenged to find what does the neshama have to say. So I thought appropriate to begin. Well, I've already begun, but you know, like the darshan that said, before I begin, let me say a few words. So I said a few words. Now I'll begin. So being that it's Pesach Sheni and Hashgacha Pratis came my way, so what do I find? I find an article written by our dear Yitzi on Pesach Sheni 4 years ago, I believe. Tovshin Ayin, now is Tovshin Pei, Tovshin Ayin Vov, 2016. So it's to the point, it's short and sweet, and I know the effort that you invest to be able to write something like this. which again is just miraculous. You know, I was just talking to a medical director at one of the hospitals here, and he said to me, I always heard from you. He used to come to my classes years ago. The Medrash says on the Pesach in Tehillim, the end of Tehillim, it says, Al kol neshama tahalal ko. For every soul that praises God, says Medrash Tehillim, the Rebbe cites it often. Neshama should be read neshima, breathing. Al kol neshima tahalal ko. Every breath, and every breath we take, we should thank God, because every breath is a miracle. Most people don't even think about it. Who thinks about breathing? So this medical director tells me he's now in the hospitals. He sees people on respirators, on ventilators. They're struggling to breathe, Rahman al-Islam. And he suddenly realized, he said, remember the Medrash that I would often quote? The Medrash that you suddenly realize. Do you know that a normal human being, average human being, breathes 15 to 18 times every minute? Who even knows that? So every time I breathe now, I think about it because I see someone struggling. So again, sometimes, Rahman al-Islam, when we are deprived of something, you appreciate its power far, far more. You don't take it for granted. So here, I'm reading this I'm a writer myself, and I am envious the ability to capture such a message in such few words, which is a big thing. They say Winston Churchill once wrote a long letter to his friend, and then he wrote at the end, I apologize that I didn't have time to write a shorter letter. To write short is more powerful than to write long. And yet, being that it's Pesach Sheni, I thought this was, and I know that this came with a big yigiyah in modern technology, but at the end of the day, the author of this is no other than Rabbi Yitzi Hurwitz, our dear friend. So I thought to begin today's Pesach Sheni, let me read this. And then I'll share a few thoughts. We'll look at it like a chavrusa. A chavrusa, you speak through your article, I'll try to respond, and maybe you'll say something in return as we see fit. And of course, this is open for questions and comments from everyone that's participating. So here we are, Pesach Sheni. So this is, please try again, is the name of the article. In the portion of Baal Escha, this is not me, this is Rabbi Yitzi's writing. In the portion of Baal Escha, we read about the mitzvah of Pesach Sheni, the second Passover. If someone was impure, this is what the Pasuk says about today, based on the Hayom of today. If someone was impure or far away when the Passover sacrifice was being brought, he should bring it 1 month later on Pesach Sheni. Let me just explain. Pesach Rishon was a month ago, Yud Dalet and Tezvav Nisan. And now the mitzvah says that if they couldn't bring it, you bring it a month later, Yud Dalet Iyar, which is today. The first unique thing, Yitzi continues, about this mitzvah is that the Torah tells us the story of how this mitzvah came to be. Quote, there were people who were impure. They came before Moses saying, why should we lose out? The verse says, Lo menigara, why should we lose out? Another unique thing is that they asked only about being impure. A condition that was no fault of their own. Tomei, they were impure. However, God added that if a person is far away, which is understood to mean even a minimal distance, he too can make up on Pesach Sheni. So just to explain, the Jews asked, we were impure on Pesach Rishon in Nisan, and we couldn't bring the korban. And the Eibishter added, even derech recheka, even if you were not impure, but you were away from the place where you bring the korban, which even a minimal distance, you can make it up on Pesach Sheni. What lesson can we take from these two oddities? The story behind the mitzvah, meaning that they asked for it, they said, why should we lose out? And the second thing, and the addition of the person who is far, but not really far at all. What do we learn from this? Listen to these words. These words are heart and soul piercing words. It's my commentary. You can be near and far at the same time. You can be physically close, yet detached and distant in attitude. Here in body, elsewhere in mind. For example, you could be praying to God, you're saying the words, but your mind is wandering. God wants us to be close to him, to love him, and yet it is possible to be so close and totally ignore him. To this person, God says, I still want you to be close to me. Try again. Do it better. Like the people in the story of Pesach Sheni, you need to really want it. If you do, it'll always be possible to get close to Hashem. They really wanted it. They said, Lama Nigara. They said, why should we lose out? And now Yitzi brings it home to a personal lesson. At home too, not just in our relationship with Hashem. At home too, our spouses and our children yearn for our love and closeness. While we might be with them physically, they may feel ignored because our attention is not focused on them. Not able to move, I yearn to hug and play with my kids. I realize the value of spending quality time with them, and I do the best I can in my circumstance to be with them. First, you need to realize what you are missing out on. Then you need to truly want to change. Finally, you have to know that they yearn for this connection and will welcome your love. Don't give up on the best thing you have. Rabbi Yitzi Hurwitz. 4 years ago, a time we never imagined what's happening now in all our lives. I'm reading this and I say, this could have been written today. The lesson of Pesach Sheni for today. What's the lesson? Here we are, quarantined, locked down in our homes, can't go to shul, can't daven with a minyan. Rahman al-Islam, people can't even sit shiva, those that have to properly. Everything in our Yiddish world, in our physical world, has been stripped away. Thank God we have our health, but there are people that have been taken from us, very special people. And it's not over. We pray to the Eibishter, the Magefa should end, and it should just end and just have the positive. So I'm reading this and I say, this is the lesson. How much did we take for granted? We went to work, we came home. Now we're home with our children. We're home with our families. This is an opportunity. Just read these words. You're not able to move out of your house, so maybe you have to learn to hug a little more. You could be close, but you can be distant. Just because you're physically close to your children doesn't mean you're emotionally close. So Pesach Sheni tells us, number one, that even if you took it for granted before and you didn't fully appreciate it, if you cry out with an emes, with a truth, with sincerity and integrity, there's always another chance. There's no such thing as lost. Nishtakim verfallen is the way the Friedrich Rebbe puts it. There's no such thing as lost. There's always a second chance. And second of all, even if you were distant, the Eibishter adds, even if you're distant, not that distant, but distant, you could get close again. You can bring the korban. Korban is from the word closeness. Kiruv, which is definitely what's alluded to here. I would add, especially in our time, that also tumah. What's tameh? The Rambam says that tumah is not a physical blemish. It's not like dirt and you go take a bath or a shower. That's not tumah. Tumah is a ruchnisdik impurity, that you're disconnected from the Eibishter. We are now, every virus, including the coronavirus, is tumah. It's a zuma, it's a toxic, it's a toxin. So here you have the lesson. Pesach Sheni is teaching us that even if you were tameh, even if you were impure, you were infected. Or you felt distant, you were distant. You may have been physically, but you were too involved, immersed in your material life or in other distractions. If you cry with an emes, the Eibishter sends a new mitzvah. It's interesting. Not every time a Jew asks for the Eibishter, he sends a new mitzvah. Pesach Sheni. The Rebbe explains. It's unique. You don't have a Shvuah Sheni. You don't have a Sukkah Sheni. Pesach Sheni. The Rebbe explains one of the reasons is because Pesach is about a reis game from Allah Hagbolas, Yitzias Mitzrayim. So to go out of all limitations includes being able to change the past. That even in the past you were distant, you were impure or distant, if you cry with an emes, you open up new doors. I can't say a more appropriate lesson to our times right now. But you have to do something about it. You have to do something. You have to try. You can't just say, oh, too bad. If you're quiet and you just say, I feel like I'm damaged goods and I can't do anything about it. No, you have to initiate. So now is an opportunity, exactly that, exactly as Yitzi writes in this lesson from Pesach Sheni, opportunity for a second chance. Yes, it's coming with a heavy price. It's an illness and a pandemic that has affected people and taken some people. But everything in life, the Rambam says, has a lesson for us. Baal Shem Tov says has a lesson for us. The Rambam paskins that when a catastrophe happens, we have to learn from it. And we learn from it that's an opportunity now. You don't have the excuse, I'm going to my job, I have to go to a restaurant, I have to go to a party, I'm going to a wedding. No, all that is right now not happening. Why the Eibishter did this, we'll never know. But what we're supposed to take from it is that now is your second chance. Now's the time. You're going home, you're staying home. For Shabbos, maybe you should start learning what Shabbos really is like. Even for a Frumeid who went to shul every week, every day. Minyanim, Kiddush clubs, rabbis, social interactions. You know what? The Eibishter does not want that right now. Shlichus for us is right now to stay where we are. And maybe now's the time to daven with where you're supposed to daven, not just lip service, to look in our hearts, and not just be close physically, but also close emotionally, as Yitzi writes, and spiritually. The Rebbe said, Ponei alai eiref. You can be standing right near the Eibishter, right near the holiest thing, and your back is facing toward it, not appreciating it. The Rebbe said this a number of times. It's a chassidus shetayich, that you could be right there, Ponei alai, meaning you're right near me, but eiref, you're turning with your back to me. So you could be close, but distant. And then you could be physically distant, but close. When there's real love, there's a real connection. Even if you're not physically in the same room with the person, that love travels, it transcends time and space. A mother's or father's love for children is not only when they're sitting with them, wherever they may be. And the same thing is a love of the Eibishter to us, and the same thing, the love of the Rebbe to us. So even though it's after Gimel Tammuz, and we can feel distant, we can feel disconnected, it's an asoyan. It's true. It's easier if you're able to see it in front of your eyes. But I can tell you, as a person who grew up around the Rebbe physically, you could be physically close to the Rebbe, and there were many people who were not so close. The Rebbe once said in Fabrengen, one of the Chassidim of Eretz Yisrael was there by the Rebbe, and he went over to the Rebbe and said, L'chaim to the Rebbe, Ich sag L'chaim, eich fadiva sein weit, meaning those that didn't come for Tishrei to the Rebbe. So the Rebbe said, you should also say L'chaim, fadiva sein non, aber sie sein weit. For those that are here, but they're not here. In other words, you could also be physically with someone, but you're not really there. Your spirit's not there, your mind's not there, your heart's not there. What did the Alter Rebbe say to the minister when he was in prison? The story of Yutas Kislev. And the minister asked, what's the taich ayeko? Ayeko. Hashem, after Chet Tzadas, after the Adam and Chava ate from the tree of knowledge, so they concealed themselves. They hid. The Eibishter comes into Gan Eden, the Pasuk says, and Adam is hiding. So the Eibishter says to him, Hashem, God says to, where are you? Ayeko, where are you? So the minister, who is not a Jewish minister, says to the Alter Rebbe, what's Ayeko? God doesn't know where he is. God knows where everybody is. What's he hiding? So the Alter Rebbe gave him the explanation that Rashi gives. The minister was an educated man, and he said to the Alter Rebbe, I don't want Rashi's, I want your explanation. You want my explanation? He didn't know what he's asking for. So the Alter Rebbe stood up, he was tall and a very formidable person, and looked at him and said in his eyes, he said, Ayeka is the question that God asks every human being. Adam is representative of every human being. And his question is this to you. you've lived so many years. And he said the exact amount of years that the minister was. I remember the story, maybe 47. I'm not sure what number it was. He said the amount of years. You lived 47 years. Let's just use that. The Eibushter is asking, where are you? What have you accomplished with your life? I've given you responsibilities. I've given you a mission. What have you done with your life? And when the minister heard that, he began to tremble. They say he fainted, some say, because it was said with such a passion and emes that it pierced right through his heart. So what's ayeko mean? Ayeko is not a question where you are physically. You could be sitting near someone physically and then they space out and you ask them, where are you? You don't mean where their body is. We know where your body is. It's right here. We're asking, where's your spirit? Where's your mind? Why are you not with me? Why are you not present? So ayeko is the question after Adam ate from the Chet Eitzadas. The Eibushter said, how did you wander away from your mission? You betrayed me, you betrayed yourself, you betrayed your neshama, your soul. I don't recognize you anymore. You were once with me. How'd you wander off? You betrayed your whole destiny. They say, it says in Sfarim, that animals will never attack a human being. Why? Because they see that Tzelem Elokim, every human being was created in the divine image. So they see that Tzelem Elokim, so they're afraid they'll never attack a human being. So Sfarim asked the question, if they won't attack a human being, why do we see Rahman al-Itzlan? We say in Tfilas HaDerech, Chayes Ra'as, we see animals can attack. So the answer they give is, because they don't recognize that Tzelem Elokim has been concealed. It's like you're wearing a mask. Daniel, when he was in the den of lions, B'nai Variyas, when he was in the den of lions, they didn't touch him. It wasn't a miracle, because he had a Tzelem Elokim. An animal knows that God created a human being to dominate and to make a dira b'tachtenim. So every animal respects humans. Daniel was shining by a person who's not shining. So the Tzelem Elokim, Hashem was saying, what happened to you? I don't recognize your face anymore. Not just the physical face. We were given a shlichus, each of us. And thank God we have a Rebbe that told us what our mission in life is. Our mission in life is to come into a distant and dark world. And in this world, to bring light to the Ner Mitzvah V'Terer, to Chassidus, Pnimius Satera, Moyer Shebetera, Chassidus, Yefutza Meinesecha, Chutza, and to take the dark world and make it a bright garden. A garden. Now, it's really behind the scenes, it's already there, the potential. We have to reveal it. I once heard a story from Rabbi Zalman Posen. I think it's very fitting to this whole theme. Rabbi Zalman Posen, Olav HaSholem, was a shliach from the Rebbe in Nashville, Tennessee, for many years. He was a shliach already, the Frierdiker Rebbe had sent him. So he's one of the older shliach. I was once sukkahs verbringing with him in Crown Heights. He happened to be in a sukkah by his grandchildren. And we're sitting. So he tells me a story. He says, the first time that I went on shlichus as a bocher was Tafshin Vov, Zayin, like 1947. And I was a bocher. The Frierdiker Rebbe called me in and said I should go. I think he said Chicago. It was just to go learn there and do some pu'ulas activities. Frierdiker Rebbe, I never went before. It's the first time I was given shlichus. So Frierdiker Rebbe sensed that I was being tentative. He says, I wasn't comfortable, I wasn't confident, I didn't feel I can do it. So he said, the Frierdiker Rebbe said to me the following words, but he gave me a little preface. Frierdiker Rebbe, at that time, Rahman al-Itzlan already had a stroke, and it was hard for him to speak. He spoke, but it was unclear, because it affected his speech. So he said it was hard to understand, but the Frierdiker Rebbe had a secretary in the room that could always interpret. And he also used his hands. This I never heard before. So he used his hands a lot. So it helped, like when you see the hand movement, it helped understand what he was saying. So Frierdiker Rebbe said these words to me. Listen to this. It says the Frierdiker Rebbe started saying, As a neshama darf herabkommen lamata. When a soul has to come down below from heaven, will sie nicht gehen. She doesn't want to go. Why? Weil eben is warm und lichtig. Because above, in Shamayim, in the Elamis Ruchnim, the higher worlds, is warm und lichtig. It's warm and bright. Und unten is finster und kalt. Kalt und finster. Cold and dark. So for was will nicht gehen? Why would a soul want to go from a bright, warm place to a cold, hostile, dark place? Friedrich Rebbe made like this with his hand. He said, was tut man? Is was tut man? So the Friedrich Rebbe took his finger. Hope you could see it on the video here. He took his finger, he says, Mehez de neshama arab gein lamata. The neshama is commanded to go down. And the Friedrich Rebbe took his finger and did like this. Mehez the neshama, he started moving his finger. He said his finger, the Friedrich Rebbe's finger was like trembling a bit and moving very slow like this. Like that. Mehez the neshama, the neshama commanded to go from a place that's bright and warm. And the Friedrich Rebbe finally came down near the table and said to a place that's dark and cold, cold and dark. The kavanah is, the intention is, and then Friedrich Rebbe made like this with his hands, as in the earth, in the place that's cold and dark, so man machen lichtig und warm. He made like he opened his hands to make lichtig, bright and warm. That's the story. Zalman told me that, look, in shlichus, many times you have challenges, financial challenges, machlekes, fights. You can't find a minyan. Can't find kosher. There's so many challenges. Sometimes your own spirit is very demoralized. You feel down. It says, but the finger of the Friedrich Rebbe has lived with me for decades. Every time I have a dark situation, a cold situation, I remind myself, and I feel like the finger of the Friedrich Rebbe is going with me. I'm like riding on the finger. As the Friedrich Rebbe goes down with the finger, I go with him, and he goes with me. And it always gave me strength. It's a story I heard directly from him. So essentially it's the piece of everything, which tells us, even when we're impure, even when we're b'derech recheka, distant, the story is not over. You have the power. And thank God we have a Rebbe with us. Mrs. Rebbetzin Lipsker, Shalom Lipsker's wife. Chani Lipsker is her name. She's the Rebbetzin of the shul in Bell Harbor. It's called the shul. Big shul now. So I heard the story from them. They got engaged. She was a Minkowitz. They got engaged, and they went into Yechidus. And their note they wrote to the Yechidus was a few options to go on shlichus. Now, Rabbi Shalom Lipsker, knowing his wife, knew that she can get emotional, and he said, look, when the Rebbe tells us where to go, please don't become hysterical and don't start crying, and just we're accepting it. Okay, I promise. Of course, she's a woman. It wasn't like she Chaz Shalom was challenging, but he won. And exactly what happened? Well, you can make promises from today till tomorrow. It doesn't always work out the way you planned. They go in. The Rebbe looks at the note, and he says, "Ayir Art, your place is Miami Beach." As soon as she heard that, all her promises went out the window. She suddenly realized that this is real. We're going to leave Crown Heights. She had her mother, she had her father, family. She was very close to them. So she started crying. Now, of course, Shalom Lipsker, Rabbi Lipsker, what's he going to do? Tell her, hey, you promised me. This is in front of the Rebbe. So the Rebbe said, "Was weinst du? Why are you so emotional?" She said, "I want to go on shlichus with the Rebbe, but I'm going to leave my mother. I'm not going to be here. I have sisters. I have family." So the Rebbe, she said, smiled with a broad smile on his face. And he said to her, "Aber ich fahr doch mit euch." I'm traveling with you. I'm going with you. So not only was her husband happy that she did it, because that was elicited, it was like a lama negara type of thing. Because she cried out, the Rebbe said that. Had she been very cool and collected, the Rebbe may never have said that. So he thanked her afterwards because the Rebbe gave words that you live with. So we have to know that all the challenges we have, and I'm speaking now as Chassidim, but this is true, a universal message to everybody. There is no such thing as all alone. There is no person that's all alone. Alone is only in your mind. You know, we say after Shmini Atzeres, that the Eibishter says, the Medrash says, Rashi brings it, that why Shmini Atzeres? After 7 days of Sukkot, what do we need an 8th day? So there's a mashal that after 7 days and after a whole Tishrei of celebrating Hashem with the Eden, with his children, now that Sukkot is ending, he knows they're going to go on a long journey into the winter. And there won't be another Yom Tov till, from the Shalosh Regalim till Pesach. So he says, we love each other so much, stay with me one more day, we're going to have a meal together. Like a farewell meal, a goodbye meal. So let's celebrate together, it'll give us kayach. And then he said, but the expression is, kosha alai pridaschem. Hashem says it to the Jews. It's difficult for me, your separation. So let's come together in a Yom Tov, Yom Echad, which is Shmini Atzeres, only ano umalka b'chedeyu, just you and I. So the Rebbe asked the question, it should say, kosha alai pridaseinu. It's difficult for us to separate. Why does it say pridaschem? Your separation. We're all separate. And the answer is poshet if you think about it. Ein eid mulvade. God never separates from us. There's no such thing. You can't say kosha pridaseinu. It's pridaschem. You, because of, in the language of Chassidus, there's a hel and vehester, there's a concealment, there's a tzimtzum that doesn't allow us to see behind the curtain. The neshamas see us, we don't see them. God sees us, we don't see God. So pridaschem, it's difficult for me to see that you're going to feel that you're alone. I'm never away from you. Because it's not pridaseinu. Tremendous lesson in life. And I'll tell you all, it's all been inspired by the few words. Yitzi writes these words: you can be near and far at the same time. You can be far and really be the closest. If you're aware that the Rebbe is with you, that the Eibush is with you, that all the people who love you are with you, even if they're not always physically right near you. But you could also be far and near. You could also be physically close, but not aware. Think that there's no one, that I'm all alone. Especially today, you know how many people are saying, I can't tell you how many classes I did the last few weeks, but the big topic is, am I all alone? Because a lot of people, till now, in this world in which we live, they could escape. They escape their loneliness. You know how? You go to a party, you say l'chaim, you go to a game, you go to work. There's many distractions. There's many ways to escape loneliness. Now a lot of these escapes are gone. So it's very coming down on many people, the dawning upon them, am I all alone? So we, as Jews b'chlal, and Chassidim b'frat specifically, we're not alone. The finger of the Frierdiker Rebbe is with you. The Rebbe's presence is with you. But you have to work on it. You can't just take it for granted. You have to feel. And we can learn this from people who are challenged. And again, Chmonu Litzlan, we all want Yitzi to come back, but Ramach Evarim Shasagidim, complete health, seamlessness. But to dismiss the fact that we learned lessons that I believe are relevant today more than ever to all of us. What's the ikar of a person? It's a neshama. Yes, the Rebbe wants a neshama beguf in a healthy way. But at times, for whatever reason, something happens on the chitzenius dika level, whether the material level, the body level, but that doesn't mean we're less close. On the contrary, we're closer than ever. I remember once hearing, there was a woman who was, unfortunately, she was very wounded in a terrorist attack in Israel. She came to a talk I gave. The talk was about betochen, about trust, faith, amunah, betochen. She was sitting in the back of the auditorium. After I finished, she came over with a friend. As she came closer, I saw her face. Her face was, you could see there was a lot of plastic surgery. Beautiful face, but you could see it was reconstructed. No better way to say it. What can I say? And she says to me, very beautifully gentle voice. She says, I'm an American girl. I grew up in a secular family. I went to Israel and I got so inspired, I decided to stay and learn in a yeshiva there, the girls' school. My parents would not ever accept that. So I sent them notes that I'm traveling in the Middle East and here and there. I didn't tell them I'm going to, and I became an observant. And I loved it, Shabbos and Kashrus and learning and Israel. It was all gewaldig. One Friday, I was having coffee. I was waiting to have coffee with one of my friends in Machne, in Ben Yehuda. And the punkt just then, was one of the early attacks. There was a Rahman al-Islam, a suitcase bomb. Someone had left a suitcase, a bomb exploded. It killed a lot of people. And she says, it didn't kill me, but it wounded me because all the little ball bearings and the needles, they really did it to maximize damage. I was in a hospital. My face was torn off. I lost my hearing. I lost my smell. And I was in a terrible pain because they had to put me in painkillers because my skin was all burned. For months and months, I'm lying in a hospital. My parents found out that I'm in Israel. On CNN, there was a picture of me covered in blood. They realized that's the daughter. So to their credit, they came flying to Israel. They were supportive. Every morning, I would wake up in terrible pain. I would say to God, why'd you do this to me? I was having a good life in America. I came here to Israel for you, to serve you, to be an observant Jew, to learn Torah. This is what happens. And why do you leave me half dead? You want to take me? Take me. Why do you leave me in a way that my whole body and my whole being is gone? So she's telling this to me. I was like, I was in complete, humbled, in awe. And she said, one morning I wake up. It was around 5-6 months after the accident, after the attack. And suddenly I had a surge of strength, a surge of energy came through me. I don't know where it came from. I believe it came from God, from Hashem. And I said, you know what? No, I'm not giving up on life. I'm going to fight. I'm going to survive. I'm going to thrive. I'm going to do whatever it takes to rebuild my life. And then she said these words to me that I, was quite stunned by, or in a good way. She said, Rabbi Jacobson, you don't know the power of faith. You don't know the power of betachon, of trust, until everything is taken from you and you have nothing left but amun and betachon. Those were her words. You don't know the power of these forces until everything else has been taken from you. Then you suddenly realize what kind of power it is. I'll never forget, this was years ago. And I looked at her and, I didn't have any words. I said to her, I am humbled in your presence. You're a divine creature. You're demonstrating that which the greatest of our men and women in history demonstrated, that there is no such thing as giving up. There's no such thing as resignation. There's no such thing as it's all lost and hopeless. There's no such thing. The Jews, throughout history, that was what kept us. Behisha amdalanu. We never accepted, and it wasn't easy. We never accepted our lot, whether it was in Mitzrayim where we were being tortured and killed, and bondage and work, whether it was under the Romans, whether it was the Crusaders, whether it was the pogroms, the Inquisition, and finally the Holocaust, whether it was personal losses. People have lost family members, terrible stories, whether it's personal health challenges. The spirit is indomitable. The spirit comes from a higher place. We are not victims. We're not even survivors. We thrive. Kashayana Esam, as we were oppressed and afflicted, ken yirbe v'chen yifritz. It wasn't enough just to say, you know what? I'll survive. That wasn't enough. Then it's not worth it. You have to take the liability and the negative and turn it into a positive. The Rebbe was epitomized that. He personified every loss that Rebbe dealt with, his personal life, in the Jewish world. It was always translated into something positive. He built an organization. He built a new entity. His mother passed away. The Rebbe started Pirush Rashi. His wife passed away. The Rebbe Tzachai Mushli started Yom Haledes, Keren Chomesh, all kinds of activities like that. His father, Teferes Kenim Levi Yitzchak, the Friedrich Rebbe in Shtovas today. There's no such thing as a negative that just left unspoken about. I want to share a personal story that happened in Tafshin Nun. I don't know how old you are, Yitzi. If you're my brother's age, you're probably around Lamed Beis, Mem Beis. Around 18 years old, you must have been, approximately. You'll correct me if I'm wrong. Tafshin Nun was Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. As you may know, I worked in the Sichos. I had a zchus to be a chayzer and a maniach, remembering the Farbrengen, Shabbos, Yom Tov, and then maniach, committing it to paper. My father had a mini stroke right a few days before Rosh Hashanah. I remember in our house, and he was rushed to the hospital. Thank God he survived, but he ended up in the hospital Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. The Erev Yom Kippur, the Rebbe, we used to give out to everybody lekach. Lekach is a sweet honey cake, which is the minig for a sweet New Year. Then the Rebbe wasn't giving it to everybody. He was giving it to, I think, maybe the Keil Jungel. I don't remember exactly. But most individuals didn't get it. But I was summoned by the Rebbe. I'm the oldest son, oldest child of my mother's, and to come to get lekach for my father. So I came to Gan Eden HaTachten, which is right outside the Rebbe's room. The Rebbe's standing there. The Rebbe gives me a piece, or two pieces, it could be, of this honey cake, and said to me, "Give those them time, give this to your father, and tell him he should have a sweet and healthy year." Then he smiles, the Rebbe, and he says to me like this. He says, "Tell your father, as et verendigen sein Schliches, for was mit dem Geschick dorten, wird man ihm von dorten areis lassen." Tell your father that when he'll finish the mission for which he was sent to the hospital, they'll release him. So of course, immediately I ran flying to Brookdale Hospital. I brought the cake, told my father exactly what the Rebbe said. My mother started running around doing mivtzoyim in the hospital. My father called her back and said, "You're a guest." The Rebbe said, "It's my shlichus." Anyway, my father did whatever he did. He spoke to doctors. He had his ways. He was a journalist. He knew how to speak. He was interesting. Just to show you how serious this was, after Yom Kippur, this was Erev Yom Kippur, Rabbi Chadakov, who was not so well anymore, he was a pretty elderly man, the Rebbe's chief of staff, comes to the hospital. Bikur Chelim is coming to visit my father. He says to my father, the Rebbe wants to know, day after Yom Kippur, did you finish your shlichus yet? So what I said to him, when you finish the shlichus, I repeated from the Rebbe, when you finish the shlichus, you'll be released. The Rebbe wants to know if you finished your shlichus yet. Now tell me something. Anybody goes to a hospital for fun? Anybody goes to a hospital for sightseeing tours? For entertainment? My father was in the hospital because he had a stroke. He would have loved to have been Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur at home, of course. He didn't go because he had nothing to do. Because you had to go, you had to go. But the Rebbe doesn't see it that way. He sees a shlichus. The most important thing is the shlichus. So God needed to get you there. So he did it through a stroke. We don't understand why it had to come with pain. And when you finish your shlichus, they'll release you. I mean, only a Rebbe could see things like that. You see things through the eyes of a higher story, a higher picture, which we don't understand. What do we know about the world? Look today. Everybody thought they had life under control. Schedules and plans. I mean, right now, ask anybody, what's your plan for next week? For 2 weeks from now? What about a month from now? 2 months? No one has a clue. Is the world going to open up? Is there going to be Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur services? I mean, we're all guessing not, but it's a mystery. Who's in control? Everyone thought we were in control. Everyone thought life is going to go on beautiful. Because we don't control events around us. That's God's business. We control our attitude. My father could have sat in the hospital there, lie in the hospital, be demoralized, depressed. What's he doing there, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? The Rebbe gave keches. He says, no, you have a shlichus. It's sad that it has to come this way, but you have a mission to be done. You're not there just to heal. That's not the way a Jew thinks. That's not the way a chassid thinks. Remember the Friedrich Rebbe's finger. There's a reason you're in a dark place. You're not in a dark place to panic to make your life miserable. You're there because you have something to accomplish that only you can accomplish. So you think about Pesach Sheni. You think about the fact that there were Jews that were tamei. They were tamei, they were impure. And the Eibishter adds, as we read earlier from Yitzi's article, also derech recheka, distant. Now they could have said, oh, too late. I missed the boat. Pesach came and went. Next year I'll bring a korban. No. They came and they cried out to Moshe, Lama Nigora. Why did we miss out? We were impure, we were distant, we don't want that. And that touched God, that he said, you know what? Here's another Pesach Sheni. I give you a second chance. And it's not just to them. He gave us all a second chance. Always another opportunity. There's no such thing of hopelessness. We don't always know how the story ends and how it continues, but we know what we have to do. It's a tremendous lesson, I think, on a personal level and on a collective level, especially in the times in which we are now. I want to thank Yitzi because reading this article gave me something to speak about, to be honest. But not just something to speak about, something that's relevant. And I will forever cherish these words. It says, I yearn to hug and play with my kids. I don't know if anybody on earth yearns more than a person like Yitzi, because he's physically unable to do it in the regular way. So you have to dig deeper and find deeper ways to do it. But we do that. That's exactly what the way a chassid behaves, the way a Jew behaves. And it's to teach us all the same thing. It's so easy to take life for granted, health for granted. We walk, we talk, we dance, we move about. But there are times where either people or situations that tell us to look a little deeper. I mean, everything in Chassidus. I'm teaching now a class every day in Ayin Beis. Talks all about the Shai Yuchad V'Amunah, that the Elam Hazeh does not have any real value. The entire world is Dvar Hashem, is God breathing, God speaking. And if for 1 second God would stop, the whole world would cease to be. So usually this type of an idea, it's an esoteric idea, it's a very deep Chassidish idea, it's mystical, it's spiritual. But most people, they look around the world, it's a very real world. I can tell you now that Shai Yuchad V'Amunah, many people are responding to, who would never have imagined that they would. Because they're seeing exactly that. A world we thought was so powerful is not so powerful. A little microbe called coronavirus, COVID-19, that no one can even see, has paralyzed the whole world. Like the story with Titus. He said he can fight God because whether God is on land or on water, he can fight God. So God said, really? I'll show you. I'll take a zvuv, a little fly, a minuscule insect, and that will bring you down. He sent it into a mosquito into his ear, and it destroyed his life. We recognize that Elam Hazeh is only real because the Eibishter put it here. What's real is the Neshama. That lives on. It's always lived on. Our bracha and our bakosha is that we Neshama v'guf, that to be both together, united, both together fused into one healthy, a gezunte Neshama and a gezunte guf. But should never think that the Neshama, or the Neshamas of those that passed, or those that were killed al Kiddush Hashem, was in vain. They were not in vain. Everything has enduring and perpetual and immortal effect. The Eibishter should help on Pesach Sheni, exactly as you wrote, Yitzi, that it's Shtokim Fafal. Please try again. Yeah, we keep saying that and again and again. And we know that God can always dig up new ways to heal people, new ways to heal you, new ways to heal the world. And we never give up. There's no such thing as giving up, period. Because it's not giving up on ourselves, it's giving up on the essential component, what makes us who we are, our connection to Hashem, to God, giving up, Chaz v'shalom, to give up on our shlichus that the Rebbe gave us, told us clearly, Deir Hashvi, this is the generation we will bring the Geula. So you'll say, what about all the setbacks? Gimel Chav Zayin Noder and Gimel Tammuz, and this thing and that thing, and now this coronavirus, and people dying. I don't have an answer. Nobody has an answer. We never asked why. The Rebbe didn't have an answer. Or maybe he had an answer, but he didn't tell us. He told us, he himself asked why. How many times the Rebbe said, everything is ready. Why did Mashiach not come? Taka kasha. That's what he says, a question. So it doesn't matter. So there's a question. That doesn't change reality just because we have a question. We have many questions. Our job is Vayuso, we forge ahead. We forge ahead. And we learn from Pesach Sheni that there's no such thing. You can always create new opportunities. So the Abel should help that we have done enough. Should already have Rachmanis on Yitzi, on all Cheli Yisrael, on people everywhere. Bring a complete, and if necessary, miraculous refuah shleima v'kreva. God can do it. And that we should be able to march together with the Rebbe to the Gula Amitis Vashlema, back to Yerushalayim Rakesh, and bring the Pesach Sheni or Pesach Rishon or whatever it will be the case, in a complete healing and a complete redemption, a complete Geula, where there'll be Ein Acharei Golus, V'ruach HaTuma Avim Min Ha'aretz Tuma, the Tomei of Pesach Sheni will be eradicated. All forms of toxins and infections and epidemics and diseases and pandemics. And it will be Mola Oretz Deis Hashem Kamayim Layam Mechasim, a world filled with divine knowledge as the waters cover the sea. Should be taken from Miyad Mamish. And this ability that we can have technology, which I don't know if we'd even be doing this. I don't know if I would be doing this if it weren't for this matzav, only shows that we have keiches, we're given tools. But it's not enough. We want to have closeness, physical closeness. We want to be connected and close with the Eibishter, with the Rebbe, and with the Geula. So thank you for the honor, Yitzi, and all of you who are here. All of you could be listening to this. I hope I feel somewhat, I'll always feel a little inadequate because I'm in the presence of what can I say, a super courageous Neshama that has demonstrated the infinite power of hope, the infinite power of betochen, of trust, despite, I am sure, the challenges internally, psychologically, and emotionally, but has been a living role model, an example for thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. And I can tell you, even now, I share your story, Yitzi. It gives people strength. And it shouldn't be, I'm sorry that you're the scapegoat, so to speak. Rachmana litzlan. I don't see it that way. Why should you have to suffer and others to learn lessons? So I'm not suggesting, but the bottom line is you're taking the situation and you did with it exactly what the Rebbe would want you to do. You turned it into a shlichus. You're a shliach in the greatest sense of the word because, as I said, when many things are taken away from us, you see what people are made of. You see the deepest strengths. And the schus, the merit, and the schar for that will be a health that you will have far greater than the rest of us that did not have to pay such a price. And I again conclude that it should be a gula protis and a gula klolis for Klal Yisrael, for the whole world. And again, thank you for the honor. And I'd be happy if somebody wants to comment or question or rebuttal is also fine. We're here, we can do that as well. And then if not, I'll just say a final good Shabbos and the Pesach Sheni to everyone. But does anybody want to speak up? Rabbi Yitzi, hast du nicht was zu sagen?
You're speechless.
In the Gemara it says, "Shtike keidah adami." If you're quiet, it means you agree with everything. I don't think Jews ever agree with everything. That's not possible. Okay, I see. Okay, so let me just say, since here, I'm in New York here now. It's Kan Siva Hashem Sabracha, where Yitzi grew up. I'm just a block away from 770, but 770 is closed, the Gashmis. But as we know, as I said, we can be closed by Gashmis, but open by Ruchnias. Shabbos will be here in a few hours. Shabbos Pashas Emer. Emer ve'amarte lahazir agdelim alaktanim. The Rebbe always teaches lahazir is not just that they should warn, that the kohanim, the elders, should warn the young ones. Lahazir also from the word zoyhar, like zoyhar harakia, they should illuminate, because chinuch, education, is not just to warn and to frighten and to discipline, but it's also to illuminate, from the word zoyhar. And the Rebbe would always connect it to Lag BaEmer. Hamaskilim yazhiru kezer harakia this week, Monday night, Tuesday is Lag BaEmer. Lag BaEmer, like Iyar, the month of Iyar is Ani Hashem Refecha, healing. Lag BaEmer is also a day of healing. Machatzti ve'ani erpa, the Maimorim, the Rebbe Marash, and other Chassidus talks about Machatzti, I've caused you to be ill, ve'ani erpa, and I will also heal you. That Rashbi was a healer. When he came out of the Maida after 13 years, what did he do? Wherever he went, he healed it. He brought healing. He was Peked HaKodesh. Women who couldn't have children, he opened up their wombs, gave them a bracha. Like BaEmer, the Hayem Yem says that the Mittler Rebbe, the Rabbeim, would go out into the field and they did miracles regarding opening up new brachas. A Peked HaKodesh is a big thing. A woman is infertile, she can't have a child, but Ashbi was able to break through barriers. So the theme of Lag BaEmer, the theme of the Zohar, says, Bahai Sifra Deloch Yafkin Kol Yisrael Mebei Galusa. With this sefer, with this chibur, with this composition, this book called the Zohar, the Eden will go out of Golus. Kedai Rab Shimon Lismach Elov B'Shas Adchak. You can rest assured and rely that on Shimon when there's Shas Adchak, when things are difficult. Yechelni lifter es kol ha'elam kuli min adin, Rashbi said. I can redeem the whole world from din, from severities. So all these Mamor Chazal all indicate, more than ever this year, again on a personal level and on a collective level, that the Lag BaEmer should open up a lahazir, illumination on a highest possible level, healing, brachas, even situations that may not seem possible. Rashbi was able to show the way. And he, of course, had a difficult life himself, having to spend 12, 13 years hiding in quarantine, mind you, in quarantine from the Romans who were looking to kill him. But he turned the quarantine into an unbelievable power. You can imagine the Torah and the Primis HaTorah that he learned with Rabbi Lozer, his son, during those 12, 13 years. And today we celebrate, Monday night, Tuesday, we'll be celebrating Simchasei of Rashbi. Every time there was a Lag BaEmer parade, all the best images and pictures, and the Rebbe in his full glory, like Melech Basada, on Lag BaEmer. Simchasei of Rashbi should be a bracha to all of us, that even before Lag BaEmer we should celebrate Vachatzti ve'ani erpa, complete healing. Again, everyone have a very good Shabbos, very good Pesach Sheni, very powerful Lag BaEmer. This year, more than ever, Jews cannot go to a pilgrimage in Miran, but we can go to a pilgrimage Beruchnias. And that's what we have to do. Zaygi ben Rabbi Yitzi, it's always beautiful to be in your presence, even though, as you say, we're not physically close, but we're spiritually very close. And continue to be that inspiration. The Eibishter should bless you and bench you. Complete healing. And your wife and family, who in their own way have to deal with the challenges and dig deeper as well, should have simcha and health and celebrate many, many beautiful things together with you and you with them. And as a microcosm, all Klal Yisrael together. Everyone be well. Good Shabbos, and a freilich and Pesach Sheni, and a freilich Tomid. Thank you again.